Okay, so I've just mounted the control box and I've just used a screwdriver to adjust the depth of the safety switch screw to make sure it makes good connection. And we've got the thermocouple mounted into place in the front of the kiln. Now, we like to leave ours loose so that they can be pulled in and out. This just helps for when if you're loading the kiln, we just like to pull it out an inch just to keep the thermocouple out of the way. And then once we've loaded, push it back in and it'll measure the temperature inside the kiln properly. One of the things to remember though, if you do pull it out and load it, remember to put it back in, otherwise you'll be measuring the temperature inside the wall of the kiln and not inside the cavity of the kiln, and that's not going to be great. We do have a little bit of maintenance we can go through, and everyone gets a maintenance page with the kiln, so it'll look effectively like that. And basically every time before you fire, we just open it up, have a look at the element, make sure it's deeply in place. If it does ever start to bow out of the sidewall, we just heat it up with a propane torch until it's orange, and then push it back into place, and then you can put a retaining pin or something in just to make sure it stays there. About once a week, give the whole thing a vacuum, except for the lid fibre. About once a month, vacuum the lid fibre, and we use just the brush attachment, so the soft detail brush attachment that you get with most vacuum cleaners. And about once a year, inspect the lid fibre and see if it needs to be replaced. It probably won't be. It really does depend on how often you're using the kiln, but the lid fibre lasts a substantial amount of time. As long as you're relatively gentle when you open and close the lid, there's no reason it shouldn't last hundreds or thousands of openings and closings. So here we have a Bartlett 3-key kiln controller, and it's relatively easy to program, but we'll just run through a couple of them now. We like to do 3 programs with every kiln we build, and we leave the 4th program available for you to play with, although you can obviously get rid of any of our programs if you don't like them. It's your kiln, it's completely up to you. To program them though, when you've powered it on, it'll just flash idle and the current temperature inside the kiln. So we just press enter. It'll ask us if we want to have a delay. This is if you're setting it up in the evening and you want it to turn on first thing tomorrow morning while you're making breakfast. You can set an 8 or a 10-hour delay in. For us though, we don't want a delay at the moment. This is where you can choose user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4. Those are all of your possible firing options. We're going to run with user 1 and we're going to press enter again. This is segments, so it's supposed to say seg. It's as good as it gets. It's currently set to 6. We want a single firing segment for this one. We want it to ramp at about 200 degrees an hour. We want to go to 288 degrees an hour. So we just press and hold and it'll start counting down a lot faster. It's a knack, you will get it after a little while. 288, we press enter again. This is how long we would like to stay at that temperature for, and we'd like to be there for 20 minutes. We press enter. Red 1 means that it's ready. We press enter when we want to fire. So now it's going to take us up to 288 degrees. There it is. So that tick is the relay firing. That lets you know that it is doing something. You can, and I've already tested, but we can make sure that the safety switch is working. We'll wait for it to click again, then I'll open the lid and we should hear it click off. So every time we open the lid, it's turning the power off to the elements so that the inside of the kiln is safe. It's still, once it's hot, it'll burn you, absolutely, but at least you won't get electrocuted, which is pretty important. Okay. You can press stop at any time to cancel a firing. Now, the next one we like to do is a full fuse or a contour fuse, depending on what you're most likely to do. But we'll just run a full fuse for this one. So we're going to press enter. We don't want a delay. We're going to change that to user number 2. And we're going to press enter. And we're going to have 8 segments. This is a very safe firing schedule, but it absolutely works. I might just adjust that camera angle while we're on the 8 segment part. just to make sure you can see it nice and clearly. Okay, so we want 8 segments, we press enter. If this is our first ramp speed, we're going to go up at 200 degrees an hour. 200 degrees an hour is pretty much the maximum safe temperature if you're going to be running up to a 400 by 400 shelf. And our target temperature for this one is going to be 600 degrees. This is our bulk heating firing. And we don't need a hold for this segment. Our next one is going to ramp at 60 degrees an hour. And this is just a bubble squeeze. And we're going to go up to 660, so it will take 1 hour to do this segment. And we don't need to hold that one either. Our next one is 100 degrees an hour up until top temp. I love some of the numbers it's programmed in Word Factory. It really gets you great experience at pressing and holding a button. This is just 100 degrees an hour. We're going to 770. And we're going to hold there for 30 minutes. And now we're starting to ramp down. So we're going to go down at full speed. So we just press and hold the up key until it says full. It will just take a minute. Full. And we're going to drop that down to the first annealing point, which is 550 degrees. We're going to hold there for 30 minutes. Our next ramp is at 60 degrees an hour. And we're going to go down to 538 degrees. And we're going to hold that for 20 minutes. Our next ramp is at 60 degrees an hour again. And we're going to go down to 516 degrees and hold for 30 minutes. Now there's two definite schools of thought on how you should anneal glass. There is the take it down to 510-ish and just hold it there for an hour for about 6mm glass. Obviously longer holds for thicker glass. But we like the triple anneal point better. We think it gives a more stable glass in the long run, and just we have a lot less breakage by using the triple anneal point. It does take a little bit longer, but again, it's lovely and safe. And if you're selling production glass out of a kiln, it's really nice if it doesn't explode on someone down the line. So we're holding that for 30 minutes. Our next ramp is at 120 degrees an hour. Down to 427. which should be a familiar number for everyone. And we don't need to hold on that one. And then we just want to ramp down 200 degrees an hour until it's 100 degrees Celsius inside the kiln, and then we're going to get it to turn off. That will be a ramp that is good for all full thickness and full fusing projects inside this kiln for System 96. If you want bullseye, we just take it up another 8 to 10 degrees at that top number. And no hold there. So that firing schedule is now ready. We press go and it will fire. I'm not going to let it fire long because this kiln still has a lot of the protective wrapping on it because it's going down to Melbourne. The next one we'll do is just a slump. And again, relay clicked on, relay clicks off. So that would have run the entire way through without a problem. You will have noticed that our top temperature for System 96 glass is 770 degrees, whereas the System 96 published temperature is 796 degrees. This is just an effect, it's another effect of the large amount of insulation within the kiln and its heating and cooling time variances. So 770 will give you a full fuse in this kiln, 740 will give you a contour fuse, and 700 will give you a tack fuse. So with segment number 3, so user number 3, we're just going to do a slump. This one's a 5 segment slump. Our first ramp is at 150 an hour. We're going to go up to 670 degrees. Sometimes the controller is a little bit finicky. And we're going to hold it there for 30 minutes, just to let the piece equalise in temperature completely. Next up, we're going to go at full speed. Down to 538, which is usually the second anneal point, but because this glass hasn't been completely cooked, we can skip the first anneal point. We're going to hold it there for 20 minutes. Our next one is 60 degrees an hour. It's quite convenient that the factory settings are just mind-boggling numbers. Down to 516. And we're going to hold it there for 30 minutes. Our next one is 120 degrees an hour. Down to 427. And no hold is required for that one. And then just 200 an hour. Down to 100 degrees. No hold then, and then we're just going to turn it off. that one is ready. Now we've left user number 4 available as a free and open program, again just for experimenting, or you can change any of these settings that you like. Okay, thank you very much for playing along at home. Hopefully it's been a lot of fun. You will be very tired right now if you've just built one along with me, but a nice shower, some ibuprofen or whatever it is that floats your boat will get you through the day and through the evening. Now, it is a really nice kiln. It's a really simple kiln, but it is perfect for glass. It weighs around 50 kilos, so 2 people can lift it comfortably and move it. And we do get asked questions a lot about what we should do for a stand. We like to use just cinder blocks from insert whatever hardware store you like here. Effectively you can build just a base out of cinder blocks and then make it as many cinder blocks high as is comfortable for you to work on. Also people use tables, multiple stools, portable trolleys so that they could slide it in and out when they were using it. It really is quite okay. Just keep in mind the distance you need for fire safety, and also keep in mind that it's a kiln, it gets really hot, and the last thing any of us want is for a young child or someone who doesn't know that glass kilns get really hot to walk up and get pretty serious contact burns by playing with it while it's at high temperatures. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy the kiln that you've built, or the kiln you're going to come build with me, or the kiln that you're going to build just using the techniques and the information you saw in the video today. All of those are great ideas, all of those are wonderful. The more glass kilns we can have, absolutely the better. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you with the next project.